Welcome to the 15th annual Talk to the Entities Halloween celebration. Talk to the Entities is 15 years old. I am Shannon O'Hara, and I am so honored and pleased that you are tuning in with us today for this celebration in the possibility of consciousness, ease, joy, and glory, practicality regarding awareness of entities. So can you guys tell what my Halloween costume is? Can you guys tell what I'm dressed up as? Hint, I'm dressed up as I'm a modern witch. She looks basically just like everybody else. She completely blends into the crowd, but is different in her capabilities and what she's willing to see. So we always look at Halloween as this sort of like time to showcase Talk to the Entities because, of course, if you're watching this from a non-Western country, or, you know, you might not get the deal with Halloween, but if you're in America, you definitely get with the deal with the Halloween. People start putting out corpses and like impaled heads and goblins and ghouls and all sorts of weird stuff outside their houses. Everyone sort of like puts this like horror movie outside on the lawn and is very entertained by it. So Talk to the Entities Halloween tends to be like the sort of Talk to the Entities holiday. So we like to create a place for those of you guys that actually know that something else is possible, to come experience what a world that includes spirits could be like, that doesn't need to be like the horror movie that this reality tends to depict it as. I've done a lot of stuff about like Halloween in the past, like sort of like where does the holiday of Halloween come from? Most of the holidays or celebrations that we do now in European descent cultures were originally earth worship or seasonal acknowledgement celebrations that our ancestors had, that then Christianity sort of usurped and placed their own names and saints on top of to claim an own. So Halloween is sort of the modern day version of All Hallows Eve, which is the eve right before All Saints Day on November 1st. But before that, it was something different that our European descent ancestors would have celebrated the turning of the season, coming out of the harvest and into the darker time of the year, where you had to really prepare for the winter. And if you're like me, you know, some of you guys might have this thing where you really love the earth and you have been in tune with its energies and additionally its beings. And our ancestors, in addition to having to work more closely with the seasonal realities than we do in this day and age, they also had to rely on a level of awareness that, frankly, we've lost due to technology and science, and most of us don't live with the rhythms of the earth anymore. We live in, artificially heated and lit environments. I am extremely grateful for indoor heating and plumbing. Yay. However, we don't tend to know the pulse of the land and the spirits in the trees and the beings that come with the different seasons as our ancestors did. And when there was more nature, when nature or the wilderness dominated the earth more, there was way more what I would call nature spirits that went along with that. I'm currently in the United Kingdom. I'm in England, and I was in Surrey the other day, and I went for a walk by myself. And I went through this patch of woods that was so active. And it wasn't even like a big patch of woods. I could literally see a farmer's field on that side and a farmer's field on that side. But through this tunnel of old growth forest, it was super active. It felt like there was something walking behind me. There were like things moving in the trees. And this is the world of the enchanted forest, the enchanted sea, the spirits and the beings that live on this earth with us that thrive in natural ecosystems, which there are not many of anymore. So just like there are endangered species of animals and extinct animals, there are also endangered species of earth spirits. So it's interesting talking about this because I've been facilitating Talk to the Entities and growing Talk to the Entities for 15 years now. So this is the celebration of Talk to the Entities being 15 years old. From literally the first record we have of me doing a Talk to the Entities introduction class. You know, we went back in the archives and we found this one introduction that I did 15 years ago. And that was really when I started opening my mouth and basically trying to work out what this was. And it's developed along the way into a, curriculum of empowering tools that facilitate and educate people on everything that they need to deal with the spirit world. And I find myself, when I talk about this, it's like this really practical thing in my world that's been this incredible gift that I understand the wall of impossibility and kind of like insanity that goes along with this topic. And when I start to talk about earth spirits, and it's almost like a magic has been permanently lost. And it was interesting preparing to do this video for you guys for Talk to the Entities for this Halloween birthday celebration, and looking at where is the magic of possibility? What have you always been aware of that you have repressed and rejected and twisted and judged out of existence because it wasn't normal or it didn't fit? It's like, how many of you guys watching this right now do see things? You are aware. You have experienced entity activity and had absolutely nowhere to go with that. No one to talk to about, like literally no one to talk to about it. Why do we live in a world that shames and wrongs awareness? And that's what I really want to touch in all of you guys, wherever you are when you're watching this right now. Like, whatever the circumstances of your life and awareness, what if you totally claimed what you know? What if you, instead of going into judgment or reaction or I'm crazy or I must be making it up, you actually acknowledged that you are perceiving and that there are spirits in the world and that that's not wrong for you to be aware of it, that it might be a strength and a gift and a contribution that you can be to not only your own life, but to the spirit world. We live in a world, it's like Halloween is, I believe, a demonstration of the greatest insanity of mankind, where it's like, if you walk around like a normal suburban American neighborhood at Halloween, the lawns literally look like a horror movie. There are corpses, ghouls. It's this nightmare of a vision that people love. People love to be scared. And I have witnessed this for most of my adult life and watched a lot of people come to Talk to the Entities totally terrified from their power, from their awareness, from their perception of the spirit world, simply because this reality tells you to be scared of your gift. And for me, opening up to the spirit world, it's like when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was suicidal. I had all this perception and I knew it was different. I knew I was weird. I desperately didn't want to be a freak. And I knew that if I admitted that I saw ghosts, or if I admitted that I heard voices, that I would be a freak. And that was really my biggest resistance. It's like, how many of you guys out there listening to this, like, you know you're different. And you don't want to be seen as a freak. You don't want to be judged. And it's like, is that way of controlling yourself going to work? Who is it that really needs to know you? Who is it that needs to know what you know? Who is it that actually is living your life? You. You know, it's like, who knows for you? You. Is there any person or entity or God or parent or religion or society? Is there anybody who can tell you what's true for you? Is there anybody who can know what you know for you? Or is that 100% your gift, your responsibility, and your capability? So what do you know? And what if you're knowing? What if your willingness to acknowledge, like, yes, I am aware. Yes, there are energies in the world that other people might not see, or other people even reject or judge me when I talk about. What if other people's judgments, other people's rejections, what have you given up? What perception, what part of your reality have you so judged out of existence for others? What kind of a world do you want to live in? A world that excludes magic, spirits, nature? Or have you always sort of dreamed, hoped, fantasized about what you've heard about in children's fairy tales, what you see in, what you read in stories of magic? And what if those aren't fictions? What if that is historical record of people, authors, and artists who were channeling, transferring, transmitting their perception of the magical world that we all live in? And it's like, it's okay for children to believe in fairies or to see sparkles in the trees, but as an adult, you're totally judged if that's the world that you live in. But it's time for that to change. That old way of thinking, that exclusive way of thinking, that archaic, judgmental, anti-magic, anti-spirit, unconscious, ugly, heavy, anti-reality is so done. And it's going to require you to know you, to not judge what you perceive. When a being speaks to you, know it, include it, receive it, cooperate with the quantum entangles of consciousness. It's like right now we're in the Cotswolds of England and we're staying in I think this cottage is probably 700 or more years old. It's really old around here. And it's a gorgeous refurbishment. Like, they've converted this old working farm essentially into, which they've done all over England. They've converted these old stone working farm buildings into very posh accommodation. And it's totally haunted. And I knew that this Airbnb was haunted before we came. And I was sort of like, I knew it, and I was like, oh, but it's really cute, so maybe I can clear the entities, or maybe it won't be a problem. So we get here. First night we slept upstairs, horrible. And, it's like I'm playing my space clearing loop. By the way, I've got like a de-haunt your house audio, which, by the way, usually works magically. Here, it is so old and so persistent. Frankly, if I probably played it for like 2 weeks straight, it would work. But this house is very active. And not only is it haunted, but it's haunted because time is bleeding here. And time bleeding is something that my dad taught me and talks about, which is there's these places on the planet where it's not just right now. You're actually like experiencing the past, the present, and the future in these sort of natural time bleeding places. And England has a lot of that. So to places like Jerusalem and Venice, Italy, and there is lots of them. Places where there's been civilization for a really long time. So this place, time's bleeding. And I'm like, right, okay, so I know how to handle entities, right? But this like isn't totally an entity issue. It's like a time bleeding portal here. And I'm like, there is so much activity. And I mean a lot of activity. And my initial response has been to sort of like get away from it, right? Like, oh, I don't like this energy. But then I sort of listened to myself and took the tips of Talk to the Entities, which is to stop resisting. And if I received this, what could I learn? What could I change? Like, what is possible? So I have made this conscious choice to be in this sort of discomfort, this discomfort of this like time bleeding, extremely active environment that my initial response isn't one of pleasure with it. However, over the last 15 years of developing Talk to the Entities, I have gone through many uncomfortable situations to come out the other side with a brand new tool, with an empowering awareness. It's like, I didn't just learn how to clear demons and deal with demons super easily. I really had to walk through the valley of darkness with that one. And demons like are super good at like activating your most core judgment of you. That's like what they do. That's how they get controlled. They like find your like deepest wrongness and like activate that so that you lose your power. And then they just like, you know, infect you like a virus or like a parasite. And many of us, it's like, how much are you controlled by self-judgment? Self-judgment makes you susceptible to demons and then entities that will like take advantage of your like disempowerment. And that's like a thing with the spirit world, you know, it's like, it includes everything. You know, oneness includes everything and judges nothing. So it includes angels and beings of light and demons and creepy, weird, you know, energies that have been so pasteurized out of society that when they show up in our lives, we are completely ill-equipped to confront it, to deal with it, and to manage it. There were magic people who lived amongst us in societies, the witches, the shamans, the seers, those who walked through different worlds, who knew how to deal with spirit sickness, who knew how to communicate with other dimensions and realities. And it was like a known, accepted part of our society. But then religion came along, and then science came along, which is the new religion, which is like, you must see it to believe it, or measure it, or control it, or like all this. But no, look. There are so many realities. And those of you guys, some of you guys listening to this right now might find yourself, your universe feeling like super weird and like, whoa, and like, good. If this conversation is destabilizing your fixed perception, good. It's like, what would it take for the discomfort of growth to be a more acceptable place to come from? What would it take for our psychic space to be questioned out of fixed reality and into what else is possible? So here in this really old place where time is bleeding for me, it's a learning curve of, okay, so if I didn't have to react to this, if I wasn't in resistance, if I knew that there wasn't a problem, right? It's like everywhere we defend or protect ourselves is where we've already believed that there's a problem. And that is what separates us so dynamically from not only the spirit world but from all magic that is available to us, because it just doesn't feel like what is acceptable and normal and what other people are willing to perceive and receive. But that's what all of Talk to the Entities is about. It's like working with your awareness in a way that will invite ease, joy, and glory, rather than the horror of the corpses laying on the lawn and the Halloween, you know, it's like Halloween is sort of like this, it's sort of like this one day in the year, definitely in America. And I know that Halloween has spread to other places, but it's like very American centric. What I'm talking about with Halloween, at least, where it's sort of like people let out their freak side, like the dark side, where they are fascinated by death and by what's on the other side, except it sort of comes out in this like really scary, horrifying way. Whereas death can also be extremely peaceful. And the beings that live, like we say, like when people die, we often say like they crossed over or they transitioned. What are they crossing over? Just sort of being, you're still going to be you, just with a different kind of energy body. Beings have energetic expression, just not in a physical body. It's like this, there's just so much to discover, and there's such a bigger world to have if you're willing to have it. And I hope that all you freaks out there, all you weirdos that have always known that something else was possible and have lived in such criticism and judgment of yourself for not being normal, I would love to bring out that gift. Everything that you think is wrong with you is actually what's strong about you. Every wrongness is a strongness. Every wrongness is a strongness. Every wrongness is a strongness. Now just imagine, just look at how wrong you are and how strong you must fucking be. Please walk in the world of magic with me. It takes each and every one of you claiming what you know. So we're going to go on now to celebrate with many of the Talk to the Entities facilitators around the world. They're going to be sharing their tools, the tools of Talk to the Entities, empowering, giving information, because I'm inviting you guys to something way bigger. And I know that the steps to get there might seem completely invisible to you. However, you've always known. And it's your knowing that is the key. It is your perceiving that is your free right. It is your being that can never be taken away. And receiving the gifts that all of the spirit kingdom, that all of consciousness desires to be for you. Be you. Be so strong in how wrong you are. And I'll see you out in the world in the magical fields of possibility.